Hi guys. Okay, so today is a bit of a storytelling day and I'm going to tell you about my first pregnancy and what happened and how it all went down. And then if you're going through something similar, you can comment below and you can ask questions. So when I was born premature, and I knew that I was born at £3 something, and my mum had eclampsia and she had a C-section with both me and my sister. So I always kind of knew that. And when I found out I was pregnant, I'm really quite small. I'm a tiny human being. I'm 5'1". Online it says 5'2", but I'm 5'1", and I lied about that for a bit. So 5'1", I'm like, I don't know, 7.5 stone, something like that, 48 kilograms. I'm UK size 6. I'm tiny. I've always been small. And when I was pregnant, I was small, obviously. And I went to the doctors, and the first thing the doctor said was, "Oh, you're really small. You'll probably have a C-section," which was daunting to say the least. And I was like, "No, I won't. I'll be fine." And because I looked at my grandma is like that, with the biggest boobs. Like I always say to her, like she must have been such a little sort. When she was younger, she's real Latina looking and just gorgeous. Even now, she's still gorgeous. But she was like 7 stone when she was fully pregnant with a 10-pound baby. Like I don't know how she stood up, to be honest. But so I wasn't totally like fretting about it. And throughout pregnancy, I had a fine pregnancy with my first daughter. And just nearing the end, I guess I didn't notice that I had, sorry, my thing's gone off. I didn't notice that I had bloated a little bit because I'd never been pregnant before. So I just assumed people get bigger. But nearing the end, I had started to be a bit more bloated. They had started to say the baby was small. But then there were some doctors that would go, yeah, but she's small, so she's not likely to have a massive baby. And there's sort of conflicting things. But nearing the end of the pregnancy, I went in, and there was a couple of times they'd been a little bit concerned about, I think it was the protein in my water and things like that. And then there was a day, I think it would have been 6 weeks before my due date, and I had been doing some work and stuff, and I came home and I had a really bad headache and I couldn't shake it off. And I just thought, you know what, you probably shouldn't leave it if you get a headache. And I think I'd saw some spots a little bit in my peripheral vision, which again is not good. It can be blood pressure stuff. So I rang my midwife and she said, look, just come into the hospital and we'll have you check you over. Didn't even pack a bag, didn't even think anything of it. Went to the hospital with my husband. They did all their tests and whatever. And then the doctor came in to explain what the situation was. Then the alarm started going woo in another room, and he whizzed off to deal with that. The nurse then came in, assuming the doctor had had his conversation with me and that I knew what was happening, which I didn't. And so she came in and said, okay then, so we're going to induce you in the next few days. We're going to admit you. And I was like, what? What do you mean you're going to induce me in the next few days? For what reason? I've got 6 weeks, god damn you. What do you mean? I don't even know what I'm doing. What are you talking about? So what had happened is that they had seen that I developed pre-eclampsia, which you get sort of taught about, I think, in some of your antenatal classes and things like that. It's high blood pressure and a collection of things that go on, but the high blood pressure is the thing. And so they brought me in, they admitted me, and I was sat on sort of the labour ward, or a ward of pregnant women, and watching people give birth and leave and come back, and just sat there. And I think sort of the second day, because I was totally the unprepared mum, like I'd not been around babies, I didn't know what I was doing. And so the third day, I sort of sat on, maybe second day, I was thinking I should probably, like, I don't know, read a book about how to look after a baby or something. What, like, there's gonna be a baby here soon. But they would just keep monitoring me and pumping me full of stuff and trying to keep my blood pressure down and whatever. And then I think it was my mother-in-law came in to bring me a curry, because I fancied a curry. And she came in with my brother-in-law as well, and then the nurse came in and did my blood pressure, and she just went, I could tell by her face, she just went, no, this has got to happen now. And then suddenly they were wheeling me down to the more scary emergency bit where they whacked loads of wires on me and stuck things in me, catheters, and which a nurse kept kicking, by the way. Why would you? I was like, can you be careful of the catheter, please? But yeah, so then it was all systems go, and I was induced, and nothing really happened. And it was in the time where they induced you, and it's slightly different now, because I was induced with my second, but it was different. They can't, this is going to sound minging if you're not a pregnant person, but they can't pull the thing out. They just put the thing in, and then it did its stuff, and they couldn't stop it once it had started. So I was getting contractions, but nothing was really happening. My sister came up from London, my husband was there, and they sort of were both there with me. And I'd done yoga throughout pregnancy, and my yoga teacher had said to me, you want to be on your hands and knees, really, like to get a baby out, you know, you want to be like on all fours. That's the best way. Gravity will do its thing. So I had this in my head, and I'm like, and I was delirious, like really ill. So I was like, get me on the floor, this baby's gonna come out. And they were like, no. Eventually I did get on the floor, and that did help. But they induced me twice, and on the third, when it wasn't happening, they were going to C-section me. And because my husband knew that I really didn't want that, like I understand that that's a serious operation, and I didn't want that if I could help it. Obviously, you know, if it happens, it happens. And so he said, look, please, can we wait any longer? And he said, look, we'll give it another half an hour, and then if not, we have to see, it's too dangerous. And they waited, and within the next 20 minutes, I eventually gave birth to Brooke. And so I had little Brookie. I think what they did in the end, I think about 5 minutes before I gave birth, she stuck half a pethidine in the back of my leg. And that was the only time. Suddenly I was like gurning and stuff. But she said you probably wouldn't have felt it, because you gave birth straight after anyway. And then after that, little Brooke came out. She was £4.4. She was whisked off to special care for checkups and things like that. And then I kept feeling ill, and I kept going, oh, I don't feel very good. My sister since told me that she could see what was happening, and she said obviously I was trying not to react, but I was losing a lot of blood. They had left the placenta in, some of the placenta, or some had stayed in, not they left it, but some had stayed in, and so that was what was happening. And so I then had to suddenly get whisked off down to theatre, sign forms to say all this scary stuff if it happened and whatever, and they had to get it out. So I was then given an epidural after having given birth. So how does that work out then? Felt great, the epidural. Felt brilliant, couldn't feel a fucking thing. Didn't have that in pregnancy. In labour, just had it afterwards. So I was okay. I think looking back now, I was actually very ill, but I didn't know any different, so I just got on with it, and I was still fine. I was in there for about a week with my daughter. She was in special care for 2 weeks. She was thankfully absolutely fine. She was just tiny like I was, and do you know what? The special care where we were in Walsgrave, Coventry, was unbelievably amazing. And they taught me how to be a mum. They taught me how to bath a baby. They taught me what to do. They taught me what to do, and it didn't feel scary when I came out with this tiny little baby. It was fine. Whereas with my second, and you guys know when you've had babies the first time and you're a new mum, they just let you out with the baby. You're in charge of it. And so I didn't really have that. I had 2 weeks of being in special care, and nurses telling me what to do, and doing all my fingers and thumbs and feeling silly and all that stuff in special care where nobody else saw it. So I looked really confident when I came out, but it's because I'd been taught to be confident. So yeah, and then when I had my second, I won't go through the whole thing, but they found out that I had something called APS, or Hughes syndrome, some people call it, I think, in America, and it means that I have sticky blood. It's an autoimmune disease, and it just means that my body was trying to fight Brooke, trying to fight having a baby, and my blood pressure goes up, and yeah, heightened risk of stroke and miscarriage and lots of scary things. So in second pregnancy they looked after me a hell of a lot, and I had to inject myself in the stomach with blood thinning injections, which is a bit icky, but one of them things, you got to get on with it. And you know what, even after all the stuff that went on in my labour and pregnancy, it still wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. I don't remember it. I don't think I don't remember all the ins and outs of it. I'm sure I felt bad, but I don't really remember it. And so if you are pregnant now and you just listened to this and went, oh my God, I'm really not trying to scare you, because do you know what? Every single birth is different. And what comforted me was I just looked around outside and look at all those idiots that have had babies. Proper idiots. They've had them. You'll be fine. And that is my final thought on the matter.